and welcome back to our top 8 of the Gaming Arena set champs. We have a new deck list here to look through. Our matchup for the top 8 will be Ruby Amethyst into Sapphire Steel, played by Alan, who we have already seen on stream already this tournament. So let's have a look at the deck list of the Ruby Amethyst player, Ja. So pretty standard list here. We can see a few sort of changes from our Continentals winner Ed here. We do see that he's opted to go off the 4 Lady Tremaines and add in that Medusa, making him a bit more well favoured into the mirror match. We do see only playing the 2 Flynn Riders here. Just finding that in a lot of matchups, maybe not the best card you want to be playing, but definitely still needed for that Ruby Sapphire matchup. Having that aggressive start that your opponents can struggle to keep up with can be quite useful. And we see only the 2 copies of the library. We do have this one tech include of the Bell Accomplished Mystic. Definitely a really powerful card, especially in some of these mirror matches where the Elsa can challenge into a genie, have 2 damage on it, and then move that 2 damage back onto the genie to completely heal your Elsa and banish that genie from the opponent. We see a number of 1-drop characters and the 4 crabs here. I would like to see a 4th Diablo with the 4th crab. Having that Diablo being able to get Challenger 3 and be able to draw a card when it's banished is definitely a good combo there. And then we just see the 4 Madam Mims of each and the 4 Merlins of each, opting not for the genies at this stage, just valuing that draw off the Merlin when it's bounced back to hand as well as when it's played. And then we see the 3 Mauis here, just respecting those locations. I definitely think we're going to see a lot more Mauis be brought back into these Amethyst Ruby decks after we saw Edwin with 4 of the library in his deck and locations starting to become a bit more prevalent. Going to need something like that Maui to rush in and take it out. So I definitely like seeing that include. Now we've got the 4 Brawls, definitely still need that for the Flavishams and also occasionally the Diablos in the Emerald decks. And also Genies in the mirror match can be useful for taking them out as well, as your options for taking out evasive characters are quite limited, mainly just the Elsa, which you can use the Bell to help take out as well, or the Crab to give Challenger 3, but outside of that, not too many options. And then we just got the 4 Friends and 4 Be Prepared, definitely needing those removal cards to keep your opponent's board in check and go full control mode well into the late game. And we've already had a chat about Alan's deck in a previous video, so if you haven't seen that one, go and check out the round 4 video that is up on YouTube right now and have a look at his cool deck. Otherwise, we're going to jump straight into this top 8 match, which is now best of 3, and see which player comes out on top. Alrighty, we are getting stuck into our first game of top 8. It's going to be a 70-minute timer this time, so plenty of time to finish our 3 matches. And also it's going to be randomly deciding who goes first, not a seed based. So I believe Alan was the highest seed, going 3-0-2. So normally at a DLC level event would be able to choose who goes first, but in the set champs we are going to be randomly deciding, so it'll be interesting to see who goes first in this game, because I think Alan playing that aggressive Sapphire Steel deck will be heavily favoured going first. We'll have a lot of ward characters for Alan on his side, mainly going to be useful for preventing against that Brawl and the Elsa, but Ja having some very powerful non-targeted removal such as the Tremaine and the Be Prepared. So if they're able to get to a Be Prepared turn before Alan wins, I think you'd have to favour the Ruby Amethyst player. I think the longer the game goes on in a lot of matchups for Ruby Amethyst, they do become more favoured, which just shows how powerful of a deck it is and why it won both of the Continental Championships. I don't think we'll be seeing this deck go away anytime soon. It's definitely been a mainstay in the meta since set 1 even. Definitely showing the power and has just continued to get better. So our players are starting now. Looks like Ja will be going first here. Does have that one cost character in hand, so we'll have that, which you always like to see. Normally in these Ruby Amethyst decks, for your turn 1 drop, I think you would almost always prefer to be the Chernobyls if you don't know what you're playing against. Just because the Chernobyls can't really be used to draw cards later in the game all the time. So we do see Alan come down with the Mickey, so Mickey going to be able to take out this Diablo quite easily if it does quest. Jard looks like he does have the crab in hand there, so maybe going to keep this Diablo non-exerted, so then if Alan were to quest, can trade into it next turn with the crab. And that does look like what he's going to do. I definitely like this play here from Jar. Alan might be trying to look for something like a Calhoun here. So we see the Ink of the Smee, which means he probably has another 2 drop. Is it just another Smee? Still a good card to have, but I think that Calhoun can put on a bit more pressure, especially going second. So Alan also, interestingly, not questing with the Mickey Mouse. Maybe since Jai is going into that 3 ink turn, will be wanting to play around things like a crab and a fox. But I think this brawl may just come down anyway and banish the Mickey. He's just going to play the fox, so valuing this board presence here. Does get the 1 lore as well before bouncing the Diablo. Alrighty, Alan probably looking for his 3 drop Alice here. Oh, very interesting play here from Alan. That new John Silver from set 6, making it so a character on your opponent's side can't challenge next turn. Jar's already played down his fox, so unless he has another fox in hand, won't be able to challenge any of these characters. And interestingly, that John Silver is a captain, so Smee will not be taking any damage at the end of the turn as well. Just keeps getting better and better for Alan here. So Jar here a bit limited in the options. Probably going to want to develop a few more characters. Maybe start drawing some cards, because I don't see a Be Prepared in hand yet. That's definitely something you want to work towards before Alan gets too high on the lore count. Fortunately, he doesn't have any Amethyst cards because he's playing Sapphire Steel, so nothing like a goat that can instantly get him a lore. So even if you stop him just at 19, there is always the chance that you can take the game back from there. Interestingly, didn't quest with the fox, maybe just waiting to take out that Smee when it quests on the next turn. I think you can always quest here with the fox, however. Maybe not since you don't have the Be Prepared, but I think once you start getting behind against the Sapphire Steel deck, although we do see by Alan has just inked that McDuck Manor, so if that were to come down this turn, something like a crab could help take it down. So Jar may be having a bit of an insight into that McDuck Manor and knowing he needs to keep these high strength characters around as long as he can. So going into 5 ink turn here. Maybe something like a rabbit into Pluto followed up by a brawl. And then the fox can take out the Mickey or the Smee. Help clear this board a little bit and buy some more time until he's able to get to that Be Prepared turn. We do see that Diablo in hand as well, so we'll be able to play that after the brawl. He's just going to ink Diablo here. We just see the Sisu come down, so probably not going to be dealing with this Pluto this turn. Okay, looks like we're just going to see the double trade, or trade the rabbit and then Fox go in to finish off the Pluto, since Pluto will now only have 1 strength. And very nice, does have the snake to bring back the fox to the hand, so not going to be able to take it out by the John Silver there, and just ready for next turn to rush in and take out. So pretty good turn here. GR able to take out that Pluto and get some more board presence. We see the Scrooge come down, so another huge character questing for 2. Going to make it a bit tricky. GR definitely needing to get to that Be Prepared pretty soon, especially once Alan starts reducing his hand size and running out of resources. Be interesting to see what Alan does here, because GR can actually almost clear the board except for that Scrooge if he were to quest out. Doesn't quest with anything. I think that was a top deck of a Be Prepared, and it was, so Alan could potentially lose this board next turn, so I think it would be wise to see if he's holding on to that McDuck Manor, because the turn after GR plays the Be Prepared, that's definitely what you want to try and follow it up with. So GR just taking a turn off to play the goat. Doesn't need to play a fox or anything, as he knows his opponent doesn't have anything exerted, so not going to be doing too much with that Rust ability. Just going to be questing up for 5. Knows that he has the Be Prepared for next turn, so isn't too concerned about losing some of these characters. I'm just going to bounce that goat back, so definitely a good strategy for the Ruby Amethyst to bounce these goats and get 2 lore every turn. So now Alan decides to quest out, going up to 13 and putting the pressure on. Does just hold his hand, so knows there's probably a Be Prepared coming, and he will be right, but does he have the McDuck Manor ready for next turn? I think you almost always have to play the Be Prepared here. Although actually does have the option to just trade, which I think I don't mind here. Because it does have that fox in hand. So it can clear everything except the Scrooge here. And then save that Be Prepared for another turn. Maybe when he doesn't have as many characters in play. So something like a crab here would be really useful, but don't think he has that available. I think I would have liked to see that rabbit come down instead there. I don't think you need to worry about getting these goats too aggressively, because you will probably win this game by controlling. He's just going to ink that fox. I think just sort of slowly running out of draw options, so I think that rabbit probably should have come down instead. Ooh, and the grab your swords from Alan. Good option for helping clear this board. Unfortunately, Jar did just ink that fox, so won't have the option of trying to take down this Scrooge this turn, unless he has something like a crab. So again, would have liked to see that fox stay in the hand, play the rabbit, hopefully draw another inkable you can put in, and then play the fox after that. So you still get that 4-3 on the board, but you get an extra card in hand, and you get to keep the goat as well, instead of having to ink it. And looks like he's going to have to play the Be Prepared here. I think going up to 17 is a bit too scary, but now Alan has the opportunity to play a McDuck Manor, which would put him in a good spot to win this game, as Gia currently doesn't have the Maui in hand. Looks like it's just going to be a 3, so probably doesn't have the McDuck Manor this turn. Alrighty, that's a good pair for Alan there. Going to have 2 characters with Ward next turn and questing for 4. Yeah, I definitely would have liked to be prepared this turn. Now he plays the rabbit. Gonna need some more characters in play. We're gonna have to ink this brawl, I would say. Does just ink the broom. So currently doesn't have enough to take out Alan's board here. So if Alan were to just quest and Yard not get something like a crab or a fox, could spell disaster for him here. And that bodyguard Pluto is going to make it even tougher. I think the only thing that is going to save him here is another Be Prepared. Unfortunately, that one on the board has been used already. And he's not going to be an option. Now we could always trade the rabbit in and see if we draw it, which I think might be the only option here. And we do see that. So we do have the brawl in hand to remove this Pluto now. Oh, and we can sing the friends. Does he draw into that Be Prepared? He is playing 4. We've only seen 1. And it looks like that isn't it. And that is game 1 to Alan. Pretty close game there, I think. Yeah, definitely could have brought it back there. I think maybe that mistake of inking the fox could have cost him there. Not being able to take out that Scrooge McDuck, I think in the middle of the game there made it a bit difficult for him to come back. But that was game 1 to Alan. So going into game 2 here, Joe will be going first again, as they went first in the first game as well. So it will be interesting to see what he does differently, whether he goes for a more aggressive route with the Flynn Sisu. He's only playing 2 copies of the Flynn, so going to make it a bit harder to find that. But let's get stuck into game 2 and see how we go. Alrighty guys, we're getting stuck into game 2 here of the top 8. We have Alan against Jar on the right there. Did win game 1 for Alan, so we'll be going second in this one. Despite the law totals at the end, was a pretty close game. Jar was definitely still in it if you found that Be Prepared. Alrighty, definitely going to be looking for that 1-drop character and keeping hold of his foxes to be able to deal with this aggressive start by Alan. Alan again going second, probably going to want to find that Calhoun on 2 just to prevent some of these 1-cost characters from questing. And maybe even a bodyguard on 4 to help prevent the fox from rushing in and taking out some of those lower strength and willpower characters like the Alice. We do see another Diablo for this game, so going to be able to get that down. Not sure if I see a crab there to pair with it though. Alan inking the John Silver. We did see that card come in very useful last game after Jar played that fox and preventing it from challenging. I wonder if Jar will remember that and hold on to the fox rather than playing it this game. Eyeing up that Maui to ink. We do know that Alan plays the McDuck Manners. Probably a little while away from that at the moment. I think you definitely want to be holding on to those until your opponent plays that Be Prepared. Since having an empty board and dealing with a 9 willpower location is quite the challenge. That Aurora going into the Inkwell for Alan. You see a Smee again, so similar start to last game for both players. Alan, however, this time questing with the Robin Hood, which I imagine will show Jar that he doesn't have the shift in hand. I think this turn we can see the crab come down and challenge it to the Diablo to take out that Robin Hood. That's exactly what we see. So interesting that Alan decided to quest with the Robin Hood this game, but not the Mickey last game. Maybe just having a bit of a read on his opponent's hand. Interesting to see what Alan decides to play here. If he has a curve like a Sailor into a Pluto, might want to hold this Smee for a turn and not quest. Inks the McDuck mana. The thing about this deck is you can get quite a high uninkable count sometimes and might have to ink some cards that you don't necessarily want to. We're going to ink the Brawl, and we see Alan doesn't quest with the Smee, so might signal that he does have that Pluto in hand. Yeah, just questing for one, knowing last game that Alan was quite aggressive, so doesn't mind if the Smee trades in here, so happy to willingly quest with the Crab. Let's see if he does have that Pluto. Inking the Baymax. And there is that Pluto. And he does enter it in as a bodyguard. I was a bit worried he wouldn't do that for a second there. Oh, maybe he's changed his mind here. I think looks like he only has 2 cards in hand, so that CC won't be challenging much. But I guess the concern is that the Fox could come in, bouncing the Crab, and having that Challenger 3 will be able to take out the Pluto. And it's also going into turn 5 where we'll have access to that Maui, so I think preemptively putting this Maui down could put a lot of pressure onto Alan. Is that what we're going to see here? It is what we see. And I'm sure Jar can just quest out here. Being ahead on the lore against an aggro deck is definitely where you want to be. I think Alan taking out the Crab this turn will be quite good. If only he still had that Baymax, being able to take out the Crab and heal the Pluto back to, we get another 2 lore. Wouldn't heal it back to full willpower, but would still get that 2 lore. And every little bit helps in this matchup. I think Alan has 3 cards in hand at the moment. Interesting to see if he has another bodyguard, maybe something like another Pluto. Not sure if he plays the Chenpo though. These players do have 70 minutes for the round, so plenty of time to think through their actions. At this stage of the tournament, you don't want to be making any mistakes here. Wish we could get a look at Alan's hand here, see what he's thinking about. Bit of a tough decision here, because this Pluto, if it does exert itself, it's not going to really doing too much protecting, actually. We do see another Pluto. So this is quite good for Alan here. We'll be able to protect the Sailor and the Smee here. Going to be able to quest for 5, and then I imagine this Pluto will probably take out... No, just quested this one. I think taking out something like the crab here would have been quite good. Now Alan does have 3 cards in hand, so that Susu's going to be at 4 strength, so something like a crab bounce from the Fox, challenge into the Pluto, Maui into the Pluto, and then Sisu into the Alice will do a pretty good job of clearing the board here. Could actually completely wipe the board with Crab going into the Pluto, giving challenger to Diablo, Diablo into Pluto, Maui into Pluto, Sisu into Alice, and then playing that Tremaine in hand. Let's see if that's what Jar chooses to play down here. Doing something like that would mean, I believe there's still a Fox in hand, so we'll be able to save that for later as well. Bounce back that Tremaine and replay it, so... And would still get to draw off the Diablo, so I think that's probably the best line here. It doesn't look like there actually is a Fox in hand, but is that a Rabbit still? So still plenty of draw options. I think that's going to have to be the play here for Judge. Definitely need to start taking down this board, as Alan could run away with it if he's let to quest again. Currently questing for 7 on the board. Putting Jar on a 2-turn clock. So we do see the Maui trade. Going to see the Crab trade, giving challenger to Diablo. As we call it, here we go. Jar is taking down Alan's board. And this Tremaine here will go past the ward on the Smee, as Alan will be choosing the card, not his opponent. I imagine there's Bell into the Inkwell to play the Tremaine. I think getting that board presence and removing Alan's board is just going to go for the Rabbit here. Maybe it already inked that turn and was already at 5, so wasn't able to get to 6 that turn. But the Maui did come into play last turn, and that cost 5, so probably would have liked to see the Tremaine come down there for Jar, just really seal up this board control and get a 3-4 body. So it looks like Jar actually didn't ink last turn. We might see something like a Rabbit and a bounce here, and then maybe just try and go for that be prepared next turn. Don't mind that idea either. Okay, he's just going to ink the snake here. Very nice. So that Smee actually had 2 damage on it, so Bell able to take out that character and fully heal the Sisu. So going to be holding on to these be prepared for a little bit longer now. Does have quite a dominant board, so not the right time to be playing the be prepared here. Maybe Alan's sensing that Jar's having a wide board and probably not going to want to be prepared themselves, so might be inclined to go a little bit wider here. Definitely not the time for something like a McDuck Manor. So Calhoun coming into play. Wonder if Pete's going to trade into this Rabbit here. We'll give Jar an extra card, but will be a favourable trade, as Pete will stick around and the Rabbit will be banished. But maybe just wanting to wait until the Calhoun can do it next turn. Very nice. We see that. Grab your sword. It was so pivotal last game. Go into the discard. So Jar probably happy to see that card there. Alan going to refresh their hand with 2 new cards from the dock. I wonder what he can do from here. I believe he has already inked this turn, so only going to have 1 more to play with. Pete should still be in play. The rabbit does only deal 2 damage. Hopefully we get that fixed. I don't believe I was missing anything from that. Looks like it might be an Elsa coming down. So we'll be able to take out that Calhoun. Interesting to see what he takes it down with. It's going to be the Sisu. I think now that Alan's getting quite low on cards in hand, the Sisu is probably not as valuable as a challenger, so quite like to see that one challenge here. I believe that Pete should still be in play for Alan, unless I was missing something. Ooh, and Alan leaving this Gantu as the only character not respecting the Tremaine here, and as we know, Jar does have it in play, so being able to play this Tremaine will banish the Gantu. Alan not going to be happy to see that come down. And they're going to be able to quest for 3 up to 13. Jar sort of running away with it here. Does still have 2 emergency be prepared cards in hand in case things start to go wrong. So I think it's going to be tricky for Alan to catch up here. Do you see him drawing into that McDuck Manor? Definitely something you like to play after the Be Prepared, but with this sort of board, I don't think we're going to be seeing a Be Prepared come down. We see the Robin Hood come down. Quite a good card, but there's not any characters in play with 3 willpower or less, so not going to be able to challenge to get some lore here. We're going to play a rabbit here, draw another card. We do see that friend, so Elsa probably going to be able to sing that. So I'm just happy to quest at the moment. Doesn't think there's much that Alan can do. And can just play the friends for the hard cost. I think against this Sapphire Steel deck, singing with the Elsa might have been a little bit better, saving your ink for another 3 cost character. Something like that Sisu, but it doesn't matter, Jars. Run away with the game. That Tremaine on the Gantu proving too strong for Alan, and finally we'll get to see Alan go first in this game 3, coming down to the line here. Still 35 minutes left in the round, so plenty of time to finish a game 3. Let's get stuck into it. Alrighty, we're getting stuck into our 3rd and final game of the top 8, with Alan against Jar, Sapphire Steel against Ruby Amethyst. Now we see Jar doing something here I like to see from players is during your opponent's mulligan, just watching to see, have a look at their reaction, see if they're disappointed, see how many they're going to mulligan. By now you already know what deck they're playing, so mulligan can give you a lot of information about how aggressive you need to be with your mulligan. Little things like that can give you a big advantage sometimes. Let's see if it pays off in this final game here for Jar. Alan will be going first, so the first time this set he will be doing that, so going to put him at a big advantage. Jar's definitely going to have their work cut out for them. So we just see shuffling up now, getting ready to start our 3rd game of the top 8. I'm probably going to be looking for that 1, 2 and 3 drop curve. Something like a Robin Hood into a Smee. We see the inking of the Mickey, so probably has a 1 drop already. We do see that Robin Hood. Let's see if he has that Smee and maybe shift Robin Hood or Alice. So I think this Robin Hood, even though it hasn't shifted yet, puts on a lot of pressure. Especially going first, meaning if Jia were to quest next turn, if he left that broom on the board, Alan could very easily have that shift, take out the broom for 2 lore. Alan just thinking about what to ink here. Gonna ink that Gantu. I quite like seeing that. By the time you get to 5 ink, your board might be cleared a little bit. Now, interestingly, Alan had the same exact start last game, but quest with the Robin Hood. Now he chooses not to, and I'm a bit interested by this. I'm not sure what sort of cards are going to be threatening your Robin Hood here. If the broom challenges into the Robin Hood, you're pretty happy with that trade, and I don't think there's anything else that has rush at a 2 cost, except maybe a Queen of Hearts, I guess you might be concerned about, but being in Game 3 and not seeing one yet, I don't think you'd be worried about that too much. So would have liked to see Alan quest with the Robin Hood there. And we do see the perfect curve for Alan. Again, I think going into this 3 ink turn, not questing with new characters, is quite sensible. Especially since on turn 4, Alan will be able to get a Pluto down. Probably going to come down with a Sisu here. Alan probably going to have more strength at the end of the turn, so I doubt this Flynn will trigger. But having that potentially high strength Sisu on board is going to be important against these aggro decks. We just see the Calhoun and another Calhoun, so that's going to put a lot of pressure on Jai here, especially since that Sisu now only has 2 strength. I think I'd quite like to see these characters go sideways here. Given that that Sisu only has 2 at the moment, it's not going to be taking out the Alice. I guess something like a Fox you have to be concerned about. So seeing Jia quest here with the broom means he's probably going to banish it. Definitely don't want to keep that character exerted facing down 2 Calhouns. Yep, and we see the Fox coming down, so going to bounce that. Doesn't have anything to challenge here, so we might see a repeat of game number 1 here, where Alan has the John Silver in hand to prevent the Fox from challenging. However, I do think Jia does have the Maui Demigod in hand, so would still be able to rush in and challenge. We see 5 come down. And we do see the Chen pose, so something we haven't seen in these games from Alan just yet. I think this is a very good turn for Alan here. Going to be questing for 8. Running away with it, and crucially getting this in a couple of turns before the Be Prepared. Jack only going to be able at 5 this turn, so still at least 2 more turns away. No cards in hand for Alan, I believe, so Sisu going to be only at 1 strength, so might have been worth singing the friends with the Sisu there, since he's not going to be doing much challenging help. Try and look for something like a Crab to help take down the Chenpo with the Fox. I definitely would have liked to see the Sisu sing the friends there. I think that needed to happen, otherwise you're just in too difficult of a spot. Being 2 turns away from Be Prepared and staring down a board like this is very scary. And we see Alan just patiently waiting, not questing his characters, waiting for the right moment. Alrighty, so we do see the Sisu actually help here, even with its 1 strength. So that Maui able to come in, help take it out, and actually this Alice will be going down, and probably the Smee as well, I would imagine. Okay, just going to pass here. So it looks like Alan can still get 7 lore next turn. Here we're just discussing the damage on the Smee. Should only be at 1 at the moment since I believe it has only quest once this game. And nothing else would have put 1 damage on it. I think the Flynn will need to challenge into the Smee anyway. Just have a bit of a board reset. You know, Alan doesn't have any cards in hand, so he's not putting on too much pressure with more characters. So now Alan can get another 7 this turn, putting up to 15. Okay, might want to keep some of his characters ready now. Yeah, we'll see the Calhoun's trade, so another 2 lore for Alan. And might just keep these characters ready. Next turn being able to quest for 6. I think you can always quest with 1 of them. Maybe the Robin Hood, since the Brawl can remove that anyway. Looks like a Be Prepared top deck, so not able to play that just yet. That would be a really good card for Jar if they were able to play it, but unfortunately not. Just thinking what to do. Alan's currently questing for 6. Going up to 19 and not really leaving much room for error there. Unfortunately, can't choose the Alice. Gonna have to choose the Smee. But that's okay. I think that's a good option as well. Gonna leave Alan with just the Alice on board, so I might just be running away with it now. Doesn't look like it based on the lore, but Alan not having any cards in hand, and very soon not going to have many characters on board either. And now it looks like we're going to see the... No, Flynn is just going to hold there. Won't be triggering next turn since that Robin Hood does have 2 strength. So see the Mickey Mouse come down. Will Alan quest for 4 going up to 17? I think you are going into that Be Prepared turn, so you have to be aware of that. If you don't do anything here and you get Be Prepared and you're on 13, it's going to be tricky to come back. So we do see him quest. I like this quest here. Now we see how much that 1 lore can matter. If at the first turn of the game, or the second turn of the game, Alan quest with that Robin Hood, he would be at 18. 18's a hell of a lot closer to 20 than you might think. I think Jar is going to have to be playing this Be Prepared. Did top deck... Oh, doesn't have the ink. Didn't ink last turn because... Now the crab coming down. Just wanting to clear the board. This definitely should have gone the other way. The Elsa, I think, just a little bit more valuable. Especially when you have the ability to bounce it. Although the Flint could trigger for 3 lore this turn and start to bring it back for Jar. So maybe he's just going to need this Flint trigger to win this game. Mickey Mouse just taking it out anyway. Ooh, and the Baymax coming down, pushing up to 18. So Jar, I don't think there's anything. Oh, we do see the Medusa come down, but no ink. Just ran into a bit too much of an inkable problem here. currently still stuck at 5 eggs, so a brawl could have done it. Unfortunately, I think a rabbit drawing here doesn't leave any outs for GR to win that game. So unfortunately, just in the final stages of this game, running into an uninkable issue, not able to play any of the cards in hand, and Alan having that Baymax on board to quest for 2 will mean he will win this game 3 of top 8 and advance to the top 4 match, where he actually ends up playing against me. We didn't stream that one, but just as a little spoiler, I got thoroughly beaten by Alan. He played very well. So spoiler alert, but he will be in the finals, and we'll find out against who in the next video. Thanks for watching. Like, comment on some of the plays you thought and what you think of the decks. Be sure to subscribe to find out when the next video goes live for our top 4, and we will see you in the next video.